Welcome to Impact 4x4, the channel that's all about Jeeps, barbecue, and beer. My name's Tom. Let's get the show on the road. We're going to have some fun. We're going to have some good times. And I'm going to show you some stuff. And you're probably going to like it. And you're probably going to tune in for more. So you might as well just hit that subscribe button. We're going to start this off with a pretty extreme build. And this build is going to be an off-road rock crawler that we're going to try and break. In this case, I did a lot of research, and I just want to share that with you. Now, any build you do, I don't care what it is, hot rod, four-wheeler, I don't care. It all starts with the budget. You're always going to be constrained by your budget. You know, do you have $3,000? Do you have $5,000? Do you have $30,000? Do you have more? You spend $100,000 on a rock crawler, no problem. Trust me. We got to kind of see what our budget is. For my particular build, I took my daily driver, which was a Jeep Patriot. It was the family car, and we got a new family car. So I got rid of the Jeep Patriot, and I'm taking that money, and I think I walked away with about $14,000, and that's what I'm going to use for my build. Most likely it'll go over budget, but I'm not. You can spend a few $1,000s and have a pretty decent off-road vehicle if you choose an older Cherokee or Wrangler. And let's just start off by talking about, you know, the capabilities of the vehicles that you're going to want to pick. And the most common vehicles, they're going to be obviously Wranglers, probably the top off-road capable vehicle, even if you just get the thing factory. Nothing done to it. They're trail rated, right? They can go into the woods. They're great. Another great vehicle is going to be the Tacoma. A lot of guys do Tacomas. The problem with Tacomas is A, really hard to find, and B, very expensive. Then we have our Grand Cherokees, our Comanches, and then there are some other vehicles people do go off-roading in. Some people do Subarus. I've seen Lexuses that are done up. I've seen older vehicles. I've seen Wagoneers. Infinite possibilities, really. I mean, I seen a guy put a Corvette chassis or a Corvette body on a Chevy Blazer frame and put a Corvette motor on it. So he literally had a four-wheel drive off-road Corvette. So just to prove a point here that you can do this with any vehicle. So the next thing you need to consider is going to be aftermarket availability. What parts, who's making parts for these? I can tell you that something like the Tacoma might be a little harder to find some of the parts. Some of the really old Jeeps, they might not be making as many parts. The brand new Jeeps, maybe not as many parts. So these are all factors, right? The biggest output for parts in the world right now is going to be the Jeep JK platform, and that's going to be, you know, your 2 and 4 door Jeep Wranglers 07 to 2020 by far have more parts out there, lift kits, all that stuff, and you can get the parts a lot cheaper for budget. Problem is those Jeeps are kind of pricey. The next vehicle that's going to be tied between Wrangler and Cherokee is going to be your Wrangler TJ, which is the Jeep Wrangler that's built between 97 and 06. The Jeep Cherokee, which is built between 1987 and 2001. Now, I specifically chose the Cherokee. You can go on Craigslist or Facebook and you can find one of these things running and driving, you know, a capable off-road vehicle for $1,200, right? You can spend pennies and get one of these things and drive it for years. They're little tanks and they're light and they're great off-road. In my opinion, the Jeep Cherokee is going to outwheel the Wrangler TJ all day. It's a little bit longer wheelbase. It's unibody construction. And the way it works out, that it doesn't have a frame after we build it, it's actually going to have a little bit more ground clearance under the midsection of the chassis. And overall, they were just very well built vehicles. I really, really, really love the Cherokees. When looking at the Cherokees, you have the older model. So that's going to be like 87 through 90. And then you have 90 through 93, all the way up to you get to about 1996. Now, there's a definite difference in the body style. You'll be able to notice that it's a little bit more rounded. You got some rounded plastic bumper flares, fender flares on the 96 and up. They're going to be distributed, or they might have a coil pack system, which is definitely a bigger upgrade. Another thing is they stopped the Renix motor and started putting the 4-liter high output. So considerably more power with a 1996 and up Cherokee. I think it makes about 190 horsepower, 210 foot-pounds of torque or something like that. So that's my preference, right? And out of all the models and all the configurations, the absolute best year to get a Jeep Cherokee is going to be 1999. The 1999 is going to come with an NP231 transfer case. It's going to come with a Chrysler 8 1/4 rear axle, and it's going to come with a Dana 30 high pinion. When we're talking about the types of axles that come in these, the high pinion and low pinion, the low pinion just isn't as strong as the high pinion. When the gears mesh and torque is applied on the low pinion, the pinion pulls away from the ring gear and flexes a little. On a high pinion, it's the opposite. It pushes into the ring gear, and it just gives that added strength. A considerable amount stronger for a Dana 30 high pinion front axle. There's a lot of things to look at when buying a vehicle. You want to get under there and you want to poke around. You want to see what it's got for body rot. It can be very hard to spot, very hard. So you want to look under where the driver's feet are. You want to look in the areas of the fender flares. You want to look in the wheel wells. You want to, take a look underneath and see how bad it actually is. And pay close attention to the area where the transmission cross member holds up the transmission, and there's 2 bolts on each side. A lot of times those rot out, and you really can't work with them, and you end up having to do some surgery to be able to use a new cross member. So with that being said, we went shopping. So I had my money, and I went and I found a 1999 Jeep Cherokee, and I ended up spending $4,800 from this place in New Jersey. Drove all the way down there from Massachusetts and bought it sight unseen and just drove it home. The thing was really clean. Here's a picture of it. Pop that up on the screen. This Jeep, to me, it was perfect. It started at run and drive, had a couple of electrical problems, had some gremlins that were going to have to be figured out, and a couple things wrong with it. And it didn't have too much rust or throw it, so I thought. Once I did get it home, I ended up hearing a crunch under my foot, and when I went underneath, I saw a little rot spot. I thought it was nothing small, but the floor pan completely rotted out, and it was just paint. Even me, I couldn't tell, and I've been doing this for years. So you really want to decide on what you're willing to buy, what platform you want. You want a Jeep, you want a Toyota, and then you want to shop around Facebook, Craigslist. You want to look everywhere, and you want to kind of budget in. Now we're talking about parts. So the way you want to build an off-road vehicle is going to be functionality, and then you want to move into looks, okay, and armor, things like that. So obviously the very first thing you're going to do is you're going to get a lift kit. Now you can do a budget lift kit. They work fine. I was on a budget lift kit for years with a 3.5-inch rough country budget kit. Did wonders. It lasted about 5 years till the leaf spring broke. If you want to cheap out, you can do a lift kit for probably $600-700. You probably do one of those budgets for about $250 with blocks. Works just fine. You can get away with it. It's going to do the job. You're going to get more functionality with a better lift kit. You're going to get more flex of the axles to keep your tires in touch with the ground and gain more traction in harder courses. But, when you're first getting into this, boom, buy yourself a vehicle, put a lift in it, and the very next thing you want to do is you want to do some nice all-terrain or mud-terrain tires, and you want to get them a little big. I would not go any smaller than a 31 or a 32-inch tire on any off-road vehicle. I'm going to shoot for 33s or 35s on this build because I want it to be extremely capable. I want to hit some of the hardest trails. I want to go over some of the biggest rocks. And I'm gonna really put this thing to the test. I'm gonna build this thing bulletproof. Now, that being said, when you change the size of a tire, you change the ratio of the speedometer. So your speedometer is going to be off because your tires are most likely going to be spinning at a different speed than what your transmission is expecting. It changes the final gear ratio at the back tires, ultimately. Bigger tires, you're going to have more gear multiplication. Smaller tires, you're going to have more of a gear reduction. So when you have a bigger tire, you're also going to have what feels like a lack of power. And that's because your rear differential gears are going to be too small. And the gear ratio is not going to give you that gear reduction you're looking for. So when you go up to, let's say, a 33-inch tire, you're not going to be able to use those 355 gears that came factory in an automatic 99 Cherokee. You're going to have to upgrade them to, 373, 456. I'm going to choose 456 gears for my build because that will give me a highway cruising speed of around 2,500 RPMs, which is, I'm okay with it. The next thing also, are you running an automatic transmission or a 5-speed manual? The 5 speeds from the factory had a lower gear. That's just the way it works out. So that's why the automatic Cherokees run a 355 gear ratio, and the 5 speeds, I think they ran like a 305 gear. So that's something to keep in the back of your head. A stick shift, when thinking about transmission, stick shifts are fun. There's no doubt about it. I definitely would have more fun banging around some mud and a stick. But if you're going to go rock crawling in this and you really want to get into some real heavy stuff, the automatic transmission is going to allow you to creep really slowly and climb over large rocks. That's very, very important to really distinguish what are you going to do with this? Are you just going to drive around and have something for the winter? Are you going to go into the woods? Are you going to go into the woods and go over a 3-foot rock through a rock quarry or something? Are you going to bring it to Jericho Mountain, New Hampshire? You're going to want the automatic. It's just going to suit you much better. You'll be able to take those courses and have a better success ratio. Now, so we build this Jeep, right? You build your Jeep with a lift kit, bigger tires, you fix the gears, and you put decent axles in it. Maybe you upgrade the factory axles to Dana 44s, Ford 9-inch, 1-ton axles out of like a Chevy 15 or 2500. Whatever you do after that point, now you want to start thinking about damage prevention. You're going to get some trail boo-boos, so that's why guys choose those metal bumpers with like a brush guard or a bullnose, and then maybe a rear metal bumper. And you want D-rings for recovery because you're going to get the thing stuck. So you want to think about how you're going to get it unstuck. You're going to want a winch bumper. You're going to want maybe a rear tire carrier. You're going to want a roof rack to keep all your stuff. Those are the accessories you're going to buy after you've got a good running Jeep and you've made it off-road capable. Now you want to protect it. And then after the body armor, fender armor, door armor, you want rock sliders. Now rock sliders go on the bottom sides. They look like footsteps, but they're not really. And it's so that if you're climbing off a rock and you were to fall down and something would have come up and hit, it's going to hit a steel bar going down the sides of your vehicle. They look like Nerf bars, but they're called rock sliders because you can literally fall on a rock and slide off, and your Jeep's going to be fine. It's going to protect you. So rock sliders are a big must. And then after that, you're going to want to go into actual like body damage prevention panels, transfer case shield, oil pan shield, fuel tank shield, These are all going to add a considerable amount of weight to your vehicle. They're going to reduce gas mileage, right? A metal bumper that weighs 200 pounds is going to reduce your gas mileage. Bigger tires are going to reduce your gas mileage. You need to be conscious and accept that fact. With that being said, if you drive the thing carefully, you'll still get some good gas mileage. My Cherokee with metal bumpers, full armor, everything fully built, all heavy 1/4-inch steel components, tubular control arms that were solid. Thing probably weighed 4,500 pounds. I was still able to achieve 17 to 19 miles per gallon on a flat highway. So it is possible, but you're staying right at 65 and you're just barely touching the gas rolling along the highway. So these are things to be conscious of. And then you also got to know how far you can go. You're going to use more fuel when you're pushing your vehicle at low speeds, right? You're doing rock crawling. A mile of rock crawling is like, 5 to 10 miles of normal driving easily. Probably more like 10. You're doing high RPM, low speed. There's nothing worse for gas mileage. So you want to think about that. What are we going to need? Well, my Cherokee holds 16 gallons of gas. So you're telling me I can only go about 16 miles in the woods? Well, yeah, maybe. It depends on how hard the courses are. Can you maintain a speed of 30 miles an hour for a while to drive to your spot where you're going to go play around? Okay, well, let's put a 5-gallon gas tank on the back. Maybe we'll put one on the roof. Maybe we'll get a mount that, mounts one to the side. Bring some extra gas with us, right? So we want capability. We want protection. We want looks. Obviously, we want the thing to look badass. And then, we got to think about, we're going to carry tools. We're going to carry supplies. We're going to carry emergency stuff in case we get stuck in the woods. We're going to carry GPS. We're going to carry tools like shovels, maybe a saw if a tree is in the way that's down in the wood and you can't climb over it. An axe. You're going to want to carry a high lift jack. You're going to want a spare tire, a full-size, real spare tire. These are all things to think about when you're going to get really deep into the woods, going down some hard trails. Not when you're just, driving through some muddy paths, and I'm going to have my Jeep in a swamp up to the doors. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to happen. We're going to go there. We're going to do that. And by doing it all myself, I'm going to save a lot of money, right? If you went to a shop and asked them to install a lift kit, it's probably going to cost more in labor than you paid for the lift kit. Doing it yourself is going to save money, but you got to know what you're doing. And, hopefully you'll get some insight through my video. All this stuff can be done with, Harbor Freight, basic hand tools, and a floor jack right in your driveway. Albeit I'm going to do it in my garage with a lift. You work with what you got. I was working on, jack stands all my life. Just getting older and I'm more capable now. So, all right. Now you've got your Jeep lifted. You get some decent tires on it. It's running right. You fixed all the quirks. I would say the next thing is to start looking at your axles. Okay. Your axles are probably going to be open differential, which means if one tire gets stuck in the mud and it's allowed to spin and the other tire hits something that it can grab, the one that grabs is going to stay still and your tire that's free to spin is going to spin and you're not going to go anywhere. So you want like a limited slip differential. You want a locker, something like that. I'm going to shoot for locking differentials front and rear. I want to be able to lock them up so that literally if my Jeep was on one tire and I had all my axles locked, it would push my vehicle forward. Right? That's how awesome that can be. When you have a 4-wheel drive vehicle with locked tires and in 4-wheel drive or 4-wheel drive low, and people always wonder what low does. It's kind of like the idea of a clock gear, a big and a small. So if you take the big clock gear and spin it once, the small one's going to go zzz and spin 2 or 3 times. It's not going to have as much power. It's going to have that speed. Same time, if you take the small gear and you drive it, you're going to turn the big gear just a little bit, but with a lot less effort. And that's called gear reduction, right? So gear multiplication, you go higher speed, less torque. And then gear reduction, you go less speed, more torque, right? You're getting mechanical leverage. It's the difference between taking like a small ratchet and trying to turn something and taking a big old breaker bar and going tink, right? You're going to have more leverage out here than in here. It's the same idea, same principle of mechanical leverage. I would like to just say one last thing. Besides subscribe to my channel, obviously, and leave any comments you want. I'll be looking and answering to everybody. Buying a used vehicle is one of the more stressful, difficult things to do. Don't feel rushed. Take your time and really study the market, because the market's been crazy with the, everything going on in the world and COVID. Lastly, just good luck to you. Have a good night. Alright guys, so I got this mounted up. I found 4 bolts of good enough length. Got it threaded in there. Make sure those are tightened up. There's maybe 3/4 here.